The universe was not a quiet place by accident. Stars cracked and hissed as they were born. Pulsars screamed their rotations into the void. Even the vacuum itself whispered with radiation and decay. Noise was natural. Chaos was expected. Which was precisely why the Valari Concord had outlawed it. Silence, to the Valari, was not merely the absence of sound. It was order. It was safety. It was survival carved into law after their civilization had nearly destroyed itself 5 millennia earlier in what their records called the Resonance Collapse. A chain reaction of emotional feedback that tore cities apart and folded moons into rubble. From that day forward, the Valari did not sing. They did not shout. They did not laugh. And they absolutely did not allow humans. Captain Mara Ionescu did not know any of this when she forgot to mute her channel. Her ship, the Wayward Static, drifted lazily at the edge of Valari-controlled space, its hull patched with mismatched alloys and its engines humming with the soft, uneven vibration of something old but loved. Inside the cockpit, Mara floated upside down in her chair, boots hooked under a rail, hair drifting like a dark halo around her head. She was humming. It wasn't intentional. Humans hummed the way stars burned, without thinking about it. The tune was ancient, passed down from a planet that no longer resembled its original maps. It had no words, just rhythm. Memory. Captain, the ship's AI said gently, you are broadcasting on an open-band exploratory frequency. Mara waved a hand. Yeah. Nobody's out here but dust and regrets. She took a sip of coffee, real coffee, thick and bitter, and continued humming. The signal crossed the border. Deep inside Valari space, in a city grown from sound-dampening crystal and living stone, a monitoring array registered something impossible. At first, the system flagged it as corruption, then as static, then as a foreign pattern. In the Hall of Auditory Purity, 3 Valari overseers froze mid-calculation as the anomaly spread across their displays. What is that fluctuation? One asked, its voice a perfectly flat modulation barely above a whisper. The array magnified the signal. The hall filled with sound. A soft, uneven melody. Warm. Imperfect. Humming. The silence shattered. One overseer collapsed immediately, its neural dampeners overloading as suppressed emotional centers flared for the first time in centuries. Another recoiled, claws scraping stone as the sound bypassed every filter and regulation. This is not a weapon, the third whispered in horror. It's worse. Across Valari space, citizens paused. A worker in a transit corridor felt something tighten in its chest and did not know why. A child, one of the few allowed, tilted its head, hearing something it had no words for. An archivist felt moisture gather in its eyes and panicked as alarms screamed. The system identified the source. Species human. Classification, emotional emitters. Threat level, undefined. Undefined was unacceptable. Back on the Wayward Static, Mara finally noticed the blinking alerts. Ha, she muttered. That's new. Before she could react, space bent. A Valari enforcement vessel emerged without sound or flare, its geometry precise and colorless, as if aesthetics themselves had been filed down for efficiency. The ship didn't hail her immediately. It simply silenced her engines. The Wayward Static drifted, dead. Okay, Mara said slowly, setting her mug down. That's rude. The comm channel opened. This is the Valari Concord, came the voice, flat, controlled, and carrying a pressure that made the air feel heavier. Human vessel, you have violated Interstellar Statute 0. Absolute quiet. Cease all auditory emission immediately. Mara blinked. You want me to stop making noise? Yes. All of it. Yes. She glanced at her AI. The AI remained wisely silent. Mara sighed. Buddy, I don't know how to explain this, but humans are kind of noisy. The pause on the other end was microscopic, but real. You will comply, the voice said, or you will be neutralized. Mara floated upright, expression hardening, not with fear but irritation. The same irritation that had carried humans through predators, plagues, and the vacuum between stars. You came into my space, she said. Killed my engines. And now you're mad I hummed. You broadcast emotional interference, the Valari replied. Your sound destabilizes cognitive order. Mara laughed. It burst out of her chest, sharp and genuine. On Valari sensors the spike was catastrophic. Alarms detonated across the enforcement ship. Neural dampeners overloaded. One officer collapsed, convulsing as something ancient and forgotten tore through its controlled mind. Cease, the voice screamed, not ordered, screamed. Cease at once. Mara clapped a hand over her mouth, still chuckling. Oh wow. You guys are serious? Her laughter cut off. The silence returned. Too late. The damage had already propagated. Valari analysts stared in disbelief as data flooded in. Structural harmonics shifted. Long-dormant emotional centers activated. Something in the fabric of their controlled reality strengthened. The universe, it seemed, like the noise. Human, the voice said again, quieter now. Uneasy. You will submit to containment. Mara leaned back in her chair, eyes sharp. You ever consider, she said calmly, that maybe the problem isn't sound? Another pause. Maybe, she continued, it's that you've been holding your breath for 5,000 years. The channel cut. Tractor fields locked on. As the wayward static was pulled toward Valari space, Mara stared out at the stars, unafraid. Somewhere behind her eyes, a dangerous thought formed. If a single hum could shake an empire, what would a song do? The Valari did not believe emotions were dangerous. They believed emotions were contagious. Captain Mara Ionescu learned this while standing inside a room designed to feel like nothing at all. The containment chamber was perfectly smooth, perfectly colorless, and perfectly silent. Not the natural silence of space, but a manufactured absence. No vibration, no hum, no background resonance. Even the air felt filtered, as if the concept of atmosphere itself had been optimized. Mara floated slightly above the floor, held in place by a soft grav field that adjusted to every movement before she could complete it. Clever. Across from her stood 3 Valari overseers. Tall. Narrow. Their bodies were grown, not built, shaped for efficiency rather than comfort. Their faces, if they could be called that, were expressionless by design, smooth planes interrupted only by sensory ridges and faintly glowing ocular nodes. One of them spoke. Human Captain Mara Ionescu. You are charged with the unauthorized release of emotional stimuli within Concord space. Mara raised an eyebrow. You mean my humming? Yes. And the laugh? Yes. So, existing. The overseer ignored the comment. Your species has been classified as emotionally volatile since first contact, it continued. However, this is the first recorded instance of direct emotional projection penetrating Concord dampening fields. Another overseer stepped forward. Your internal states are not contained. They radiate. Mara crossed her arms. You're saying I leak feelings? Yes. She considered that. Yeah, that tracks. The chamber's sensors spiked briefly. The overseer stiffened. Regulate your tone, one snapped. Mara smirked. You don't like sarcasm either, do you? Emotion is not a tool, the first overseer said. It is a destabilizing force. Long ago, our kind learned this truth at great cost. With a subtle shift in the room, the air shimmered, and the walls became screens. Mara's surroundings dissolved into recorded memory. A Valari city appeared around her. Not the sterile perfection she had seen from orbit, but something older, louder, alive. Alien voices overlapped. Colors were brighter. Movements faster. The air vibrated with sound, music, argument, celebration. Emotion saturated everything. Then it escalated. Joy tipped into obsession. Pride into rage. Grief into madness. Structures twisted as resonance waves. Emotional feedback amplified through Valari neurobiology, tore through architecture like invisible storms. Towers folded. Ground fractured. The sky itself rippled as if reality couldn't decide what shape it wanted to be. The resonance collapse, the overseer narrated. Our emotions interacted with the quantum substrate of spacetime. Feeling became force. Mara watched a city die in silence. We survived, the overseer continued, by silencing ourselves, by regulating all emotional output, by removing unpredictability. The vision faded. The blank chamber returned. For 5,000 years, the overseer said, we have known peace. Mara exhaled slowly. That's not peace, she said. That's anesthesia. The reaction was immediate. Warning glyphs flashed along the chamber walls. Neural dampeners in the overseers flared as something in Mara's tone, calm, empathetic, understanding, slipped past their defenses. Your species does not understand, one hissed. Emotion nearly ended us. Mara looked at them steadily. Emotion nearly ended us too. A bunch of times. She leaned forward slightly, the graph field adjusting. We still kept it. Silence stretched. Finally, the lead overseer spoke again. You will undergo evaluation. Before Mara could respond, the chamber shifted. The evaluation room was smaller. More invasive. Thin filaments of light extended from the walls, hovering near Mara's temples, chest, and spine. She didn't like the look of them. "What is this?" she asked. "Emotional quantification," the overseer replied. "Your internal states will be measured, cataloged, and classified." Sounds cozy. Compliance is mandatory. The filaments activated. Mara stiffened as a wave of sensation passed through her. Not pain, but exposure. Every memory sharpened. Every feeling rose closer to the surface. The instruments reacted instantly. "Baseline emotional output exceeding safe thresholds," one overseer said sharply. "Subject displays layered affective states simultaneously," another added. "Joy coexisting with fear. Humor with defiance. This is inefficient." Mara gritted her teeth. "Welcome to being human." The readings spiked again. Suddenly one filament flickered. Then another. A low-frequency tremor passed through the room, not sound but pressure. "What is happening?" an overseer demanded. The sensors recalibrated, then recalibrated again. "Impossible," came the response. "Emotional output is not destabilizing the field." Mara's brow furrowed. "What is it doing?" The overseer hesitated. "It is reinforcing it." The room stabilized further. Microfractures in the structure, imperceptible before, sealed themselves. Energy efficiency climbed. System noise dropped. Mara blinked. "Wait. You're telling me my feelings are making your tech work better?" The overseers exchanged a rapid, silent data burst. "That is contradictory." Mara snorted. "Yeah, we get that a lot." The evaluation continued. They pushed harder. Images of Earth appeared, wars, disasters, loss. The filaments probed grief. Mara's chest tightened. The sensors screamed. Dangerous spike detected. But the chamber didn't fail. It adapted. Fields thickened. Structures aligned. The energy profile smoothed, not weaker but stronger like steel under tension. The overseers recoiled. "How is this possible?" one whispered. "Negative emotion should destabilize reality." Mara swallowed. "It does. If you run from it." She closed her eyes. "We don't." The filaments shook violently, then powered down. Emergency protocols engaged. "End the evaluation," the lead overseer ordered. Immediately. Mara slumped slightly as the pressure lifted. "So, how'd I do?" No one answered. Outside the chamber, Valari analysts stared at cascading data in mounting unease. Human emotional output did not behave like Valari emotion. It did not amplify uncontrollably. It self-damped. Layered feelings interfered with each other. Grief blunted rage, humor softened fear, hope stabilized despair. Where Valari emotion resonated, human emotion interfered. Like noise canceling itself. "This species should be impossible," an analyst said. "And yet," another replied, "they persist." In the holding chamber, Mara rubbed her temples. "You gonna tell me what happens now?" she called out. The overseer returned, posture rigid. "Your species presents an unacceptable variable. It," said, "emotionally uncontrolled. Unpredictable." "Still here?" Mara said. "Yes," the overseer replied quietly. "And that is the problem." It hesitated, just long enough for Mara to notice. "The Concord Council will convene," it continued. "Your kind will be reclassified." Mara tilted her head. "As what?" The overseer met her gaze. "An emotionally hazardous species." Mara smiled thinly. "That's one way to put it." "You will remain contained," the overseer said, "until we determine whether humanity is a threat." The pause this time was unmistakable. Or a necessity. The chamber sealed. As Mara was led away, far from her ship, far from home, a Valari technician in a distant control room removed one auditory dampener, just a fraction. Barely enough. Through the silence, something slipped in. A memory of a human laugh. The technician froze. And for the first time in its life, it felt something warm bloom in its chest. The Valari called it survival. Humans would have called it slow extinction. Captain Mara Ionescu learned the difference in a place no Valari was meant to visit anymore. They called it the Archive of Pre-Resonance Memory, a sealed orbital vault drifting above a dead world, its orbit perfectly stable, its systems ancient and untouched. The Concord rarely accessed it. History, after all, had a way of reintroducing dangerous ideas. Mara was brought there under heavy containment. No restraints. No threats. That alone unsettled her. The overseer who accompanied her remained at a careful distance, its dampeners running at maximum. Its voice, when it spoke, carried something new, hesitation. You demanded context, it said. You will receive it. The vault doors parted without sound. Inside, the archive was vast and dim, illuminated by soft, neutral light designed to provoke no response. Memory crystals lined the walls, each one containing fragments of Valari existence from before the silence laws. Mara exhaled slowly. You guys really don't do cozy, do you? No response. They stopped before a central projection node. When the collapse ended, the overseer said, "We believed silence was temporary. A healing measure." The projection activated. Valari cities appeared, newer than the collapse footage but restrained. Identical. Efficient. Entire worlds built on the same geometric logic, replicated again and again. Mara frowned. They're all the same. Yes. How long did it take you to notice? The overseer did not answer immediately. 400 years, it said finally. The projection shifted. Centuries passed in seconds. Technology advanced but culture did not. Architecture froze. Art disappeared. Innovation slowed, not from lack of intelligence but lack of desire. Our population stabilized, the overseer continued. Conflict vanished. Creativity declined. Declined? Mara echoed. It became unnecessary. Mara stared at the footage. Children moved in perfect lines. Adults worked without complaint. No arguments. No music. No deviation. No joy, she said quietly. The overseer's ocular nodes dimmed slightly. Joy was a risk factor. The projection zoomed out, showing Valari expansion across the stars. World after world brought under Concord law. Silence enforced. Predictability achieved. Did you ever ask, Mara said, what you were expanding for? The overseer's posture shifted, a fractional movement but real. Purpose is an emotional construct, it replied. Mara snorted softly. Yeah, that's kind of the point. The projection changed again. Now human footage appeared, raw, messy, and loud. Early human colonies. Arguments in council chambers. Music echoing through half-built domes. A funeral followed by a celebration. Wars. Rebuilding. Children laughing in gravity too low for walking properly. The contrast was brutal. You see chaos, the overseer said. I see living, Mara replied. Your species nearly annihilated itself repeatedly. And we're still here. The overseer turned toward her fully now. Why? Mara didn't answer immediately. She watched a human settlement fail on screen. Dust storms, starvation, loss. Then she watched them rebuild. Because, she said slowly, we don't optimize for survival. That is illogical. We optimize for meaning. The word seemed to ripple through the archive. Meaning. The overseer's dampeners spiked. In our early history, it said, we felt as you do. Passion. Pride. Grief. Love. Those emotions destroyed us. They hurt you, Mara corrected. They didn't destroy you. Silence. The projection shifted again, this time to something the Concord had buried deep. A graph. Valari expansion rate over time. It flattened. Then dipped. Then flatlined. You stopped growing, Mara said. We reached equilibrium. No, she said. You stopped wanting. The overseer's voice tightened. Desire leads to instability. Desire leads to kids asking questions. Mara shot back. Artists making bad art. Scientists chasing stupid ideas that somehow change everything. She gestured to the frozen cities. This is a museum that forgot it was dead. The overseer turned away. For centuries, it said, we believed ourselves superior. We enforced silence to protect the galaxy from what we once were. And now? Mara asked. And now, the overseer said quietly, your species has exposed a flaw. The projection shifted to data, recent, alarming. Valari worlds showed subtle decay. Not catastrophic but persistent. Systems requiring more energy to maintain equilibrium. Population growth stalling completely. We are not failing, the overseer said too quickly. Mara met its gaze. You're starving. The overseer stiffened. Not for resources, she continued. For reasons. Another Valari entered the archive, a junior analyst, its movements tense. Overseer, it said, unauthorized data has been detected. What kind? Cultural. The analyst hesitated. Several citizens have accessed archived human transmissions. Music. Story recordings. Informal speech patterns. Mara smiled faintly. Told you it was contagious. The overseer's dampeners surged. This is unacceptable. The citizens' report increased cognitive variance, the analyst continued. Creativity metrics are rising. Mara raised an eyebrow. Oh no. There is more, the analyst said. Emotional suppression efficiency is declining. The overseer closed its eyes, or the Valari equivalent. How many? It asked. Thousands. The silence that followed was heavier than any sound. Mara folded her arms. You can't put that back in the box. We must, the overseer said. Human influence is destabilizing our society. Or waking it up. The overseer turned sharply. You think this ends well? Mara's expression softened. No, she said. I think it ends honestly. The overseer studied her. Your species embraces suffering, it said. Why? Mara thought of Earth. Of loss. Of laughter and ruins. Of music played at funerals. Because numbness is worse, she said. Because pain reminds us we care. The archive lights flickered. Far away in a quiet Valari habitation block, a child hummed. Just a little. Enough. Alarms began to whisper across the Concord. The overseer straightened. The council will not tolerate this, it said. They will classify humanity as a mimetic hazard. Mara shrugged. Wouldn't be the first time. The next step, the overseer continued, will be erasure. Mara's smile faded. From the records, it clarified. From history. From influence. Mara's jaw set. That's a mistake. The overseer looked at her, really looked. We know, it said. The archive doors began to close. Behind them the past slept uneasily. Ahead of them something dangerous was spreading. Not noise. Not chaos. Hope. Revolutions in the Valari Concord did not begin with speeches. They began with mistakes. A technician lingered too long over a corrupted data stream. An archivist failed to report a prohibited file. A child repeated a sound no one had taught it. None of it was loud. That was the problem. Captain Mara Ionescu felt the shift before anyone told her. Her containment had changed. The room was the same, white, silent, perfectly regulated, but the attention was different. Guards passed more frequently. Overseers spoke less. The air itself felt tighter, like a held breath that had gone on too long. She sat cross-legged in midair, eyes closed, breathing slowly. Humans were good at waiting. The door opened without announcement. It was not the overseer who entered. It was a Valari citizen. Not military. Not council. Just ordinary. Its movements were careful, almost nervous. Dampeners glowed brighter than regulation. It held a small data slate clutched close to its torso like a secret. You are the human, it said. Mara opened one eye. Last I checked. The Valari hesitated. I am designated Let 7, it said. I work in cultural sanitation. Mara smiled thinly. Sounds thrilling. I am here unofficially, Let 7 said quickly. This interaction is not logged. Mara sat up straighter. Okay. Now you've got my attention. The Valari swallowed, an unnecessary biological reflex it hadn't used in centuries. I heard something, it said. Mara waited. A sound, Let 7 continued. From a restricted archive. It was labeled music. Mara's expression softened. What did you think? I did not understand it, Let 7 said. But afterward, I could not stop thinking. Mara nodded. That's how it starts. Let 7's dampeners flared. This is dangerous. Yes. I want more. There it was. The Valari rebellion's first weapon. Curiosity. It spread the way forbidden things always did, not through force but through absence. Silence had been law for so long that no one noticed its cracks at first. A maintenance worker began tapping fingers against the console, out of rhythm then into rhythm. An analyst rearranged data displays into shapes that served no function but felt right. An entire habitation block started experiencing dreams. Valari dreams. Something unheard of since the collapse. The Concord responded the only way it knew how. With suppression. Containment orders escalated. Human records were flagged for deletion. Any Valari found accessing cultural artifacts faced immediate cognitive correction. But the more they erased, the more gaps appeared. And gaps invite filling. In the lower levels of Concord Station Theta, a group gathered in a decommissioned transit hub. No lights. No official systems. Just Valari citizens sitting in a rough circle, dampeners turned down, just a fraction. At the center floated a stolen projector. A human film plate. No explosions. No war. Just people sitting around a fire, laughing for no reason at all. The Valari watched in stunned silence. One of them made a sound. It wasn't speech. It wasn't a scream. It was a breath that turned into something warmer. Another followed. The first Valari laughter in 5,000 years was quiet, shaky, and utterly uncontrollable. Above them, sensors registered anomalies. Below them, something ancient woke up. Mara felt it like a pressure change. The overseer returned shortly after. Its posture was rigid. Its dampener screamed at unsafe levels. "You are responsible," it said. Mara raised an eyebrow. "For what exactly?" "For this," the overseer snapped, projecting cascading reports into the air. Unauthorized cultural clusters. Emotional variance spikes. Suppression failure across 12 systems. "You didn't even need to do anything," Mara said. "You just let us exist." "That was the error," the overseer replied. "Human culture is a pathogen." Mara leaned forward. "Funny. Your people look healthier than they have in centuries." The overseer's voice dropped. "They are destabilized. They're alive." Silence stretched. Then the overseer said something it was never meant to say. "They are happy." The word hit like a fault line shift. "Happiness reduces compliance," it continued. "It creates preference. Choice." "Yeah," Mara said gently. "That's kind of the selling point." The overseer straightened. "The council has decided," it said. "Humanity will be erased." Mara's smile vanished. "All human cultural records will be destroyed," the overseer continued. "All contact severed. All influence purged." "You can't," Mara said. "We can," the overseer replied. "And we must." Mara met its gaze, unflinching. "Then you'll collapse anyway," she said. "Just slower." The overseer hesitated. That hesitation was new. "Your systems are already failing," Mara pressed. "Your people are starving for something they don't have words for yet." "Meaning?" the overseer whispered. Mara nodded. "Welcome to the mess." Alarms began to ripple through the station, not loud but persistent. System overrides triggered. Cultural purge protocols activated galaxy-wide. In the underground hubs, projections flickered. Human songs cut mid-note. Stories froze mid-sentence. Valari citizens felt something tear away. And they did not go quietly. Across the Concord, suppression teams encountered resistance. Not weapons. Questions. Why does this hurt? Why does silence feel empty? Why did the human laugh make me feel strong? The Concord had no answer. Because it had deleted the language for answers centuries ago. In her chamber, Mara closed her eyes. "They're going to learn," she murmured. The overseer watched her. "We were never meant to feel like this," it said. Mara opened her eyes. "No," she replied. "You were meant to choose." The lights dimmed. Emergency protocols escalated. Across Valari space, reality itself began to destabilize, not from emotion, but from its sudden absence. The first star died quietly. No explosion. No warning. It simply dimmed. Valari astronomers noticed the anomaly seconds before the stellar output flatlined, its fusion balance collapsing into inert stillness. The star didn't go supernova. It didn't implode. It stopped. Across the Concord, systems flagged the event as a statistical impossibility. Stars did not just give up. But this one had. Then another followed. And another. Captain Mara Ionescu watched the reports scroll across her containment chamber's projection field, her jaw tight. "You feel that, don't you?" she said. The overseer did not deny it. "We are experiencing systemic failure," it admitted. "Across multiple sectors." "That's not a hardware problem," Mara replied. "That's a meaning problem." The overseer ignored the jab. Energy consumption spiked as Concord infrastructure struggled to maintain equilibrium. Silence fields thickened. Emotional suppression was increased to emergency levels. And the galaxy got worse. Planets destabilized. Weather systems lost coherence. Tectonic harmonics slipped. On Valari core worlds, buildings designed to last millennia began to fracture, not from stress but from brittleness. Structures optimized for perfection had no tolerance for change. The Concord had removed noise so thoroughly that reality no longer knew how to correct itself. In the council chamber, overseers gathered in absolute stillness. Data flowed. Population decline. Creativity metrics at zero. Cognitive collapse spreading. "This is human sabotage," one overseer declared. "It is human absence," another replied. That overseer was immediately silenced. In the lower sectors things were worse. Suppression teams had wiped the underground cultural hubs clean. Human records were gone. Songs erased. Stories deleted. The Valari citizens felt it immediately. Dreams vanished overnight. Laughter stopped mid-breath. The warmth they had discovered turned cold. And where emotion had briefly returned, a deeper emptiness followed. People collapsed, not screaming, not resisting. They simply stopped moving. Medical drones could find no cause of death. Brains intact. Bodies intact. Purpose, absent. The Concorde had no protocol for despair. Mara stood as the Overseer returned, its dampeners flickering erratically. "This was not the outcome we calculated," it said. Mara crossed her arms. "You cut off the oxygen and blamed the fire for going out. Our models showed emotional neutrality was stable. Stable isn't alive." The Overseer hesitated. "You said your species strengthens reality," it said. "Explain." Mara exhaled. "Humans don't resonate," she said. "We interfere." She gestured to the failing systems. "You built everything to be perfect. Perfect systems amplify their own failures. One crack and the whole thing shatters. And humans? We're messy," Mara said. "Contradictory. Hope fights fear. Humor dulls pain. Love keeps going even when it doesn't make sense." She met the Overseer's gaze. "We break feedback loops." The Overseer's ocular nodes dimmed. "The silence laws removed instability," it said. "No," Mara corrected. "You removed redundancy." Alarms flared again. A core world suppression grid failed. Entire cities went dark. The Overseer stiffened. "For the first time since the collapse," it said slowly, "we are afraid." Mara nodded. "Good. That means you still care." The council convened in emergency session. Consensus fractured. One faction demanded absolute eradication of humanity, blame the virus, not the cure. Another whispered what had once been unthinkable. "Invite the humans back." "You cannot unleash them," one Overseer snapped. "They are uncontrolled." "They are adaptive," another replied. "We are brittle." A third spoke quietly. "Our people are dying without violence, without war, without sound." Silence fell. Then a junior Overseer, newly promoted, dampeners shaking, said the forbidden words. "We need them." The chamber erupted, not in noise but in data storms and priority overrides. That Overseer was almost erased. Almost. In her chamber, Mara felt the shift before she heard the footsteps. The Overseer entered slowly. Its dampeners were off. Not lowered. The air changed. "I am not here as an authority," it said. "I am here as a Valari." Mara's expression softened just a little. "That's new." "Our citizens are failing," it said. "Our worlds are decaying. Silence is no longer sustaining us." Mara waited. "We need your species," the Overseer said. "But the Council will not accept submission." Mara tilted her head. "Good. We don't do that." The Overseer inclined its head. "What do humans require?" Mara thought of Earth. Of chaos. Of stubborn joy. "Choice," she said. "Not control. Not worship. Just room to be human." The Overseer nodded slowly. "There is one remaining option," it said. "A controlled reintroduction." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Define controlled." The Overseer met her gaze. "We open the silence. Briefly. We let your people be heard." Mara's breath caught. "That'll hurt you," she said. "Yes," the Overseer replied. "But not feeling hurts more." Outside another star dimmed. Time was running out. "If we do this," the Overseer said, "the galaxy will never be the same." Mara smiled, small, fierce human. "Welcome to the club." The Overseer turned toward the chamber exit. "The vote begins now," it said. "If we fail." "You won't," Mara said. The Overseer paused. "How can you be sure?" Mara looked out at the dying stars. "Because humans don't fix things by being quiet." The galaxy did not vote in silence. For the first time in 5,000 years the Valari Concord allowed debate. Not spoken, not fully, but emotional variance was no longer suppressed. Dampeners were lowered across the council chamber, just enough for hesitation, fear, and hope to bleed through the data streams. It was chaos. Overseers interrupted one another. Priorities conflicted. Logic trees contradicted themselves. For the first time since the resonance collapse, the Concord was not certain of anything. Outside the chamber, stars continued to dim. Time did not care about ideology. Captain Mara Ionescu stood alone on the central dais, no restraints, no guards. Just a human in a room built to fear her. The overseer who had once ordered her containment now stood beside her. Not above, not below. "We will proceed," the overseer announced. "The silence laws will be suspended." A ripple passed through the chamber. "Temporarily," another overseer snapped. "For controlled exposure only." Mara tilted her head. "You're still trying to hold the universe's hand while crossing the street." "This is not humor," the overseer said sharply. "No," Mara replied. "It's courage pretending it isn't scared." The overseer did not contradict her. The final protocol appeared in the air between them. Project Open Channel. A controlled aperture into Concord space. No filters. No dampening. No suppression. Just sound. Just humanity. "If this destabilizes reality," one overseer warned, "the Concord will not survive." Mara looked around the chamber. "Neither will you if you don't." Silence. Then, consensus. The protocol activated. The first sound was not a weapon. It was not a speech. It was not a demand. It was a human voice, broadcast from Earth, carried across light years into Valari space. A grandmother reading a story to a child. Her voice was soft, cracked with age, loving. The effect was immediate. Across Concord space, suppression grids failed gracefully, like systems relieved to stop pretending. Structures didn't collapse. They adjusted. Energy flows stabilized. Reality stopped fighting itself. The next transmission followed. Music. Not military. Not triumphant. A guitar slightly out of tune. A human singing about loss and still choosing to wake up the next day. Valari citizens staggered, not in pain but in overwhelm. Some collapsed. Others laughed. Others cried openly without knowing why. And the galaxy did not break. It breathed. Stars reignited. Not explosively. Not dramatically. They warmed. Fusion balances corrected themselves as quantum fields stabilized, not through precision but tolerance. Fluctuations canceled each other out. Noise softened extremes. Human emotional interference did what perfect systems could not. It forgave mistakes. On a Valari core world, a child stood in an open plaza, staring up at the sky. The child laughed. Not quietly. The sound echoed. Nothing exploded. Nothing collapsed. A Valari adult laughed too. Then another. Soon the plaza was filled with something the Concord had once labeled catastrophic. Joy. In the council chamber, overseers stared at the data in stunned silence. "This contradicts all predictive models," one whispered. Mara smiled. "Yeah, we do that." The lead overseer stepped forward. "Humanity," it said, voice no longer perfectly flat, "will be reclassified." The chamber waited. Designation revoked. Emotional hazard. Another pause. New designation, stabilizing species, class prime. Mara exhaled slowly. About time. "The silence laws are hereby rewritten," the overseer continued. "No species shall be compelled to suppress identity for the comfort of another." Mara raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that?" The overseer inclined its head. "We have learned," it said, "that peace enforced is not peace." The galaxy listened. Days later, the wayward static was returned to Mara. Engines humming, systems alive, hull freshly repaired. As she prepared to depart Valari space, the overseer appeared on her view screen one last time. "You could stay," it said. "Help guide us." Mara smiled gently. "No," she replied. "You don't need guides. You need neighbors." The overseer considered this. "Will humanity be loud?" it asked. Mara laughed. "Oh, absolutely." The overseer's dampeners flickered, then shut off completely. "I believe," it said slowly, "we are ready to listen." Mara's ship turned toward open space. Behind her, a civilization relearned how to argue, to sing badly, to make art that meant nothing and everything at once. Ahead of her, the universe felt warmer. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy. They reminded it how to feel. And for the first time in a very long time, the universe answered back. Not with silence, but with life.